see, we've allowed our sword to fully cure, so it is now solid all the way through. So we're going to do some carving just to get this into less of a big fat tumor shape. So to do that, we're going to use some carving knives. Now, as I always talk about, PPE is a very important thing. So if you are not feeling super comfortable with a knife, a pair of leather gloves is a great option. Now, I'm not going to go with these just because I don't really feel comfortable wearing them. It messes with my manual dexterity. However, I am wearing blue jeans. These will not stop a knife, but they are more likely to stop tears, cuts, what have you. Also, you're going to want a trash bag and a broom and something to sweep it up into. That's why I have the dustpan, because this is going to make a hot mess and this is going to take a while, so we're going to time lapse the whole thing. So, I did not want that one. So this is a carving knife. I love this for generally everything in the kitchen, and just a general working knife. Now this is not the kitchen knife I use in the kitchen, because this stuff is not stuff you want to eat. So use a knife that you aren't going to use in your kitchen, because don't eat poison. Okay. Now just as a precautionary side note, before I get ahead of myself, one of the things you want to do is never carve towards yourself or towards your hand. You generally want to be carving in a fashion where your hand is not in the business end of the knife, because this is not a project worth getting stitches over. Cool. Leather glove, because I've got to a point where it's rather difficult to cut the thinness of the blade without cutting towards me. Now this blade is going to have a hell of a time cutting through this leather. So this is the only reason I'm violating the cut towards me rule. Now I'm not cutting towards my torso, I'm cutting towards my hand, not using very much pressure, so I'm only worrying about cutting my hand, which the leather glove will prevent. So yeah, this is the only time you violate the cutting rule, and just because we can do it safe-ish. Have a goddamn adult with you and a second person if you're doing this. Really any carving, because you might not be able to call 911 if you... Yeah. Skin the sword, not the puppy, no. So basically what we're going to do is some paper mache. No real special PPE is required for this. I did, however, put down a sheet of plastic, and I'm wearing an apron. I do recommend, if you're wearing any jewelry or anything like that, take it off. So what I'm using here is just slices of torn up newspaper. I just torn the strips, no big deal. And then a paper mache paste. You can see a previous video I did on paper mache paste, and I'll make sure to link to that. And essentially all I'm doing is dipping this in this and applying to that. Not super complicated. I'm going to do a quick fast layer, which is never as pretty when you put down your first layer. And one of the things I do recommend is when you're putting a first layer, especially if you're doing something round or like balloons or what have you, is making sure that your layer connects to itself, or the next piece you put on connects to the opposite side. Just so you're making rings, it bonds better. So at this point, we are going to do the time lapse, and yeah. Now I'm gonna go watch some anime while we do the time lapse and I throw this on. So as you can see, the sword is now dry. I want to add some texture to this, just so it looks like someone with a hammer beat it on an anvil. Now right now, I can add something to make texture, but it's really hard to see the surface because of the pattern from all the ads and everything. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to dust it with some spray paint, some black, and yeah, that way I'll be able to see cleanly where I do and do not have texture, and we can go from there. And just to let you know, proper PPE with spray paint, a respirator if you're in a confined area. I'm in an open garage with cross ventilation. Eyewear is optional. I'm not wearing it because I have experience. But the big thing is, don't spray this super close, don't spray it near your face. Cool. So, that's done. I'm going to let that dry. Because it's super humid and cold right now, it's going to take a few hours. This might take a few minutes, depending on what your weather's doing. So I'm going to let this dry, probably attack it tomorrow. And we're going to put some texture on it, and then do some painting. Cool.